It would help if I am muted. There we go. So everybody, so there are some fantastic questions there. And I think this is the exciting thing about this conference being so interactive, that we're not going to pretend to have all of the answers. And so I think maybe one way that you can continue this discussion is in the breakout groups, of course, but also have, consider joining the network that this conference is related to, because that's a platform that's intended to connect people to share ideas and solve problems. So that would be another great avenue for you to explore ideas further. But I'm going to pass over to the second speaker for today. And so I'd just like to introduce Pramod Sah. So Pramod is a PhD candidate and Killam Scholar in the Department of Language and Literacy Education at the University of British Columbia, Canada. He's worked as an English language teacher in Nepal, China, the UK, and Canada. And as a researcher, he looks at the policies, politics, and pedagogies of English, both as a medium of instruction and as a second foreign language, particularly at the intersection of language ecology, social class, ethnicity, and EMI in Nepal's multilingual schools. And so this will bring a unique critical perspective into our understanding of English medium instruction. And so I'll pass it over to Pramod.
Thank you so much, Seth. I feel privileged to get a chance to present my work here. So I'll share my screen. Okay. Can you see this screen now? Great, thank you. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. A very warm welcome to my talk. As the title of my talk says, I'm going to talk whether EMI stands for English as a medium of instruction or English as a medium of instruction for inequalities. In this talk, I will begin with discussing how the contemporary research on EMI is lacking a critical age and how important it is to adopt an intersectional approach to EMI research. Following, I will present a case of intersectional inequalities in and through an EMI policy in Nepal, which is based on my PhD research. So I will start with Ernesto Maccaro's statement of, here at Oxford, we have described the EMI phenomenon as being an unstoppable train, which has already left the station. It is the job of researchers to identify the issues surrounding its precarious journey. So as I talk through, I would like you to think about whether this is really an unstoppable train, or has it been made an unstoppable train, or whether there are ways to stop this train, or even if we'd like to stop this train. I have a question related to this for your discussion, so I will leave this to you. With this, I have a broad question that I am trying to understand when I read through the literature, that are we looking for EMI alterations or EMI alternatives? So what is the goal, or what we are trying to do through our research? Specifically at the time that British Council, who have been notoriously claimed as a major actor in EMI promotion, and now has made a very clear statement that there is no evidence to support the widely held view that EMI is a better or super way. So, at this point of time, what are we doing, or what is our main goal to do in the EMI research? So as I read the literature on EMI, I think there are two directions. Again, it's not a very comprehensive classification to EMI research, but tentatively, I think there are two main directions that the EMI research is going to. So the first set of research explores the designs of EMI programs and their effectiveness in achieving the goals of content and language learning. Primarily, their goal is to explore cost-benefit evaluation. The second set of research explores the effects of EMI on the lived experiences of different stakeholders. Again, they are not segregated sometimes, like some scholar, mix both the directions. So most research, for example, grounded in Macaro's assumption, seems to begin with a hypothesis of EMI as unavoidable, and they seek to figure out things to fix. So if EMI is unavoidable, what are the things that we can fix in order to make it a better experience for the students and all other stakeholders? On the other hand, the other set of studies look at the effects of EMI on lived experiences, and they kind of tend to challenge the existence of EMI, specifically in a multilingual context where even the international organizations like UNESCO and UN are advocating for L1 best or mother tongue best multilingual education. So EMI alterations. So as I said, like there are some studies that try to fix some of the problems in EMI. And one of the problem comes through in the literature is some scholars have already started problematizing the notion of E in EMI. So basically, E in EMI should not stand for native variety of English. And for doing that, EMI has been, E of EMI has been taken from an ELF perspective. English is a lingua franca, in which E does not necessarily stand for the native variety of English, which I really appreciate, and I believe is a step forward, for the native variety of English, or the nativeness based inequalities in English language teaching or EMI programs. However, I'm still thinking that what is the role of L1, or what is the role of local languages in EMI program? Although Jenkins said when she defines E from L perspective, she said it should be L1 influenced English. But still, like, I'm not getting at the point that how does it look like when we say L1 influenced English? That may refer to like the local varieties of English could be used in EMI, but still I see the perpetuation of English hegemony in this in this form of EMI. There are some language issues the scholars have been discussing in EMI program. Macaro, for example, argues that if we ought to make real progress with EMI, so as I'm kind of discourse analysis person, so I always look at the use of the words. So if you see like the progress with EMI, kind of giving a sense that we want to progress the EMI, we want to carry it on. Most people believe that EMI pedagogy has to change. Yes, I also agree that if we want EMI, if EMI is something that everybody wants, then of course its pedagogy has to be changed. Supporting the input theory that believes that the L2 learners should be exposed to comprehensive input in order for them to learn the language. So believing in or supporting input theory, he argues again that the use of L1 is effective in L2 learning is quite thin on the ground. It's giving a sense that he's arguing that the use of L1 in EMI class is not necessarily working or not necessarily beneficial. In EMI classes with homogeneous L1 students, switching to the L1 can be legitimate if there are explainable and justifiable reason for doing so. And I feel that this is a modernist view, that there needs to be objective reasons for the use of L1. while I think there should not be any reason for the use of L1. Using L1 is very basic human rights, and the students or teachers should be using or should be able to or should be allowed to use the languages anytime they want. Unless it's harmful, unless it harms other people. The other scholar believe that we should give a due recognition to local vernacular modes of learning and teaching. Again, like what recognition. So I believe it's not only about recognition. We need to think about the redistribution. If we are, if we are really thinking from a social justice perspective, that only recognizing L1 is not enough. We need to give it a equal power. That's what I mean by giving thinking about redistribution of L1. There have been some research, some studies on translanguaging in EMI. So the Carrie had an interesting presentation on the use of L1 in EMI in Turkey. So I have findings from two studies. So the first one is the findings from the first study says translanguaging can function as a mechanism of exclusion and reinforcement of language standards by a group of elite translingual. So in this study, translanguaging does not necessarily work in EMI program because Kutiva argues that the form of translanguaging used in EMI program was a kind of elite translingual. What that means is the languages used as form of translanguaging were elite languages, not necessarily the language of all students. In my own study, we have come to a conclusion that stakeholders' ideology of socially constructed linguistic hierarchy had led to the exclusion of the legitimate place of students' mother tongues in the seemingly ordinary translingual practices. So in our own study, the students were seen using translanguaging. So some people believe translanguaging automatically transformed the learning, which is not the case. So although translanguaging is used, we need to be careful about seeing what languages are forming what we call translanguaging. In my study, for example, the students were using Nepali, which is a national dominant language, and English, which is internationally dominant language. And if the translanguaging is formed with Nepali and English, and it is not developing on the students' home languages, I'm not sure how that becomes transformative. So what is wrong? What is wrong with the use of L1? What is wrong with the translanguaging practice in EMI? So I draw on Nelson Flores' idea. He says that the promotion of hybridity, so translanguaging is a form of hybridity, by dominant groups corresponds to the neoliberal ideology of plurilingualism. So when we believe in neoliberal or nationalist ideology, we tend to use the languages which are commodified or the languages which are made as a dominant language by the nation state. So when we use these languages and form the hybridity, it's not liberating. Ryoko Kubota, in the meantime, says, hybridity, when assigned a superior status, can be oppressive. Again, like when we use the hybridity and do not recognize the language hierarchy, that could be oppressive. Similarly, Ramanathan says, he argues that we need to distribute power between languages more just and equitable. So when we are thinking about translanguaging, any hybridity in language use, we need to really think about, whose languages are we using in the classroom? So, whether our choice of language is, dis-citizen, creating a context of dis-citizenship for other groups. So as I read the literature, I think there's very little or no attention to the empowerment of L1 or local languages in EMI programs. We are advocating for the L1 or local languages, but there is still a lack of push for the empowerment of L1. It's not just the use of, it's also the empowerment of L1. We need to think through EMI that how the minority languages can be empowered. more than simply language, I think there are the issues of language ideologies that we need to deal with. The discussion should not be whether or how much to use L1 or local languages, but how to rightfully use them. So, in many research I come along, people talking that, where should we use L1 in EMI, or how much L1 should be used? And I think it's not a fair discussion. The discussion should be on, how to rightfully use that, giving, talking about language from linguistic human right. Sorry. Okay. So I think there are some missing critical ages in EMI research. I'm not saying that it's all research lack critical ages, but some. So Macaro and his colleagues did a very comprehensive systematic review of EMI, and this study has been really, really well cited. So I try to kind of make this study a base to understanding, how critical we have been in the field of EMI, because this study provides a very comprehensive overview of the field. So the findings discussed in a number of broad categories, including growth of EMI, implementation, variables in beliefs, professional development, impact on English and content learning, and pedagogic strategies. However, I really struggled to find discussion on critical issues, for example, like social justice, for example, social class, gender, ethnicity. So I wondered whether we are not thinking about these issues in EMI, or they were left out in this study. So this is something, I'm really worried about. For example, I very intentionally, I try to do hit word search within the article for some keywords. For example, inequalities, that appeared just one time in around 40 pages article. Injustice, 0 time, gender twice, social justice, race, ethnicity, critical resistance. None of these words ever appeared in the article. And that is something I'm really concerned about, that why we are not talking about this. Why, or do you think these issues do not exist in EMI? I'm not going to believe that. These issues are very prominent in EMI. For example, like race, when there is English, there should be the use of race. In any context, if we are teaching English, the race comes along, ethnicity comes along, social class comes along, because English divides the society. So how can you say that these issues are not in EMI? So this is something we all need to think about. In the meantime, there have been some studies, mainly in K-12 context, that they tend to look at social justice agendas. And for example, like EMI in gender, EMI in social class, EMI in ethnicity. But again, I'm thinking that it would be a better idea if we look through an intersectional lens. So we look at gender, but if we are missing social class in the same study, that may not provide us a very comprehensive understanding of the phenomenon. So I believe intersectionality is really important in the EMI research, which provides a lens to the study, a kind of for the convergence of multiple forms of operations. For example, class, ethnicity, and gender, and multiple aspects of leading to such operations. So intersectional theory offers researchers and teachers sensitivity to the multiple factors affecting disadvantages. In the field of language planning and policy, the research has often missed out the examination of intergroup differences. So we have investigated the differences based on gender, ethnicity, but we have a kind of not studied intergroup differences to the level needed. So I'll present a study from Nepal for a case of intersectional lens in EMI research. So Nepal is one of the South Asian countries where 129 languages exist spoken across 125 ethnic groups, and 56 indigenous groups, although Nepal is a very, very tiny, tiny country. And 69% of the population say only the 10 most spoken languages. That means the most languages have already been marginalized and they are at the verge of extinction. We have one nation, two schooling system. I think similar to lots of contexts that the country is divided into private and public education system. In Nepal, it is very intense that the most English medium schools are private schools historically. However, in the last decade, more and more number of previously Nepali medium public schools are adopting EMI, what I call EMI as a cultural paradigm in which because of so many reasons, children from elite English medium schools have been successful in high stakes examinations at national level, or even securing jobs, or, for example, going abroad. So this has given a kind of rationale for people or poor people to think that these people are becoming successful because of the medium of instruction, because they are learning through English, they are becoming successful. So I also want to send my children to English medium school because I want to become rich. So this phenomenon is what I call a cultural paradigm of EMI. So I'll a little bit talk about the growth of EMI in Nepal. Before 1990s, we had a Nepali-only nationalist language in education policy, but with the Constitution of 1990 promulgation, we moved to multilingual education. However, mother tongue-based multilingual education was hardly implemented in Nepal with effect. I mean, it was tried to be implemented in 2006 or 7, but it wasn't become successful because of so many reasons, because the government was not so much enthusiastic, and they lacked will to mother tongue education. Simultaneously, while the country was promoting mother tongue based multilingual education, in 2006 and then later in 2007 in national curriculum, it was said that the medium of education in schools can be the Nepali language, the English language, or both. So this was the point that that there was a policy loophole for the use of English in education. And some scholars believe, Nepali scholars believe, that this was made the policy for English to be used as a medium of instruction was a kind of legalizing illegal use of English at private schools. So again, this was defined from a very neoliberal perspective. And after this national curriculum, more and more number of public schools began adopting English as a medium of instruction. For example, in Ranavat and his colleagues' study, they conducted a survey in one of the districts of Nepal, and they showed that 52% of 377 total public schools have adopted EMI in last 10 years. So it's growing so fast in Nepal, and mainly after 2015, when the country moved into a federal system and the local governments have the authority to make their own policy, more and more municipalities are adopting English as a medium of instruction. And the policy is become more and more liberal to EMI. The National Education Policy of 2019 made it explicit that in elementary level, in addition to compulsory Nepali, mother tongue can be made the medium of instruction. Similarly, mathematics and science can be taught through English. So before this policy, it was explicitly said that at least elementary levels should be taught through mother tongue. And now it is making a case that some subjects like mathematics and science could be even taught through English. So government has more and more leaning towards EMI. So what are the motivations? what are the agents for the development of EMI in Nepal? So there are the powerful agents. One is privatization. So one of the federal officers in my study said, private schools have spread a rumor that children become talented and have got opportunities and jobs in future if taught through English medium. And this has created a cultural paradigm. This is very intentional, that the privatization is playing a big role in the promotion of EMI in Nepal. In the meantime, another federal officer said, see, we have British Council and other educational institutions that we collaborate with, and they basically have such practices and desires that we should teach in English medium, and in return, they provide training to our teachers. So some supranational organizations have really big role in promoting EMI. For a poor country like Nepal, where the education, the fundings, depend on various organizations, they need to depend, even like their policy making depends on the funding agendas, and there it comes like, who's who funds the program, and then like they fall into the framework of that organization. There are also the desires coming from the bottom up for upward socioeconomic mobilities. I think this is frequent in almost all studies of EMI, that parents believe through EMI that children will become successful. So English medium schools have better quality and they have more recognition. There is an international demand and children have a better life. Unless Dalit is a caste group in Hinduism, which is placed at the bottom of the caste hierarchy, and they are socioeconomically marginalized group. So one Dalit parent said, unless Dalit children know better English or Nepali, it's difficult for them to succeed. So, even this group believe that they need to learn in commodified languages, or the languages that provide them some sort of linguistic capital to succeed in future. So I'm not going to talk about the methodology section, but briefly I said I conducted my ethnographic research in a city called Birganj, which is at the adjacent of the Indian border, and the majority of population speak a minoritized language called Bhojpuri. So I conducted my ethnographic study at this particular school. So this is one school, but this school has two systems. So two systems means it offers English medium stream as well as Nepali medium stream. Historically, this school has been Nepali medium. However, in 2014, this school started offering English medium instruction. And so what I mean by privatization at a public space and social stratification is a big case at this school. That school is a publicly funded school. However, this school is practicing a kind of quasi-privatization. I will show it here. So according to the policy of free and compulsory education policy of Nepal, like public school cannot take any fees from school. But this school, as this school runs English medium stream, this school takes lots of money from parents. As you can see in the figure, the yellow color figure is for the fees of EMI stream, and the other one is for the Nepali medium stream. So the parents have to pay very little for Nepali medium stream, or almost no fees. However, if you want to send your children to English medium stream, you need to pay a lots of money. So that's why I said it creates a quasi-private system that also, although it's a publicly funded school, the school is taking money, which is illegal. I asked the principal that why they started English medium stream, and he defined in terms of a democratic viewpoint that he says the main reason for starting up English medium is that boarding schools, which is a private English medium schools, charge too much tuition fees. Not all parents can afford such high fees. Only people who are rich and have luxurious life can pay that amount of money. This doesn't mean that people who are not able to afford that fees won't have opportunities to study through English medium. They also have the right to study through English medium. So studying through English medium is defined from a right-based approach. Therefore, we discussed with some parents and started English medium with lower fees. So this school is offering English medium instruction at a lower rate. So it's a kind of still privatization, but they believe it's a democratic action. I will show you a case of social stratification, how through the medium of instruction, this school is practicing social class. So as you can see in the table, a kind of the number of students in both streams. So for example, in Nepali medium in grade 9, the number of male students was 66%, female was 33%, and the Dalit, the poor and the lower caste students were 25% in Nepali medium stream. However, in English medium stream, the number of male students in grade 9 was 74% more than Nepali medium stream. But the number of female students was much lower in English medium stream. It was only 25%, and only 3% of Dalit students were in English medium stream. So the more number of girls and Dalits were in Nepali medium stream who were not able to afford English medium education, who did not have money to pay for English medium stream. Here, I'm not saying English medium stream is a better type, but if English medium instruction is provided and is claimed as a quality education, and most of the school resources are dedicated towards English medium stream, and if some group of students are not allowed to enter that space, that means we are creating a social class. I will present some cases of intersectional differences and how important it is to employ an intersectional lens. So I will present the cases of 4 students. First one is Arati, who is a Nepali medium stream students from low socioeconomic status families. Arati is a female student. And she says, my brother goes to a boarding school as my parents think he will support the family in future. I wish girls get more opportunities to learn English. It can help us move ahead and stand side by side to boys. So Arati believes that through English, gendered, or girls who have been minoritized can be liberated through English medium education because they could get more capital. So Arati has a kind of imagined community for herself through English medium instruction, but she's unable to attend English medium instruction because her parents can't afford English medium instruction. On the other hand, Bursa, who is a middle class student from English medium stream, is able to attend English medium education, and she says, my parents say there is no difference between son and daughter. So I also study at English medium school like my brother. She is from middle class family and she can attend, although she is also a female. Sunita is a Dalit student from English medium stream, and she believes, I hope to see her parents is from Sunita's parents, who says, I hope to see my daughter as a doctor in future, and she needs English to become a doctor. All my children attend English medium schools. So although Sunita's parents are Dalits, but they have the capital to afford English medium stream. So being from Dalit family, Sunita is attending English medium stream. So you can see like these three, these 3 students are female, but there are lots of differences in terms of social class and caste-based hierarchy. On the other hand, Sibai, who is a boy student from Brahmin family, Brahmin is a caste which is at the highest level of caste hierarchy in Hinduism. So Sibai, although he's from the higher caste, and the majority of research say that the people from Brahmin family are privileged. Although Sibai is from a Brahmin family, but he's attending Nepali medium stream, and he shared his experience that once he went to the principal, and he said, like, I spoke with the principal, sir, that I did not have money to pay the fees. He said, if you don't have money, why do you come to school? Then he said, show me you are a Dalit, then I can give you some discount. So he's a Brahmin, and he's asked to prove he's a Dalit student in order to get a discount, or in order to make the education free for him. So you can see, like, although he's a boy, he does not have the capital equal to Sunita and Bursa. So we can't take for granted that all girls are marginalized, or all Dalits are marginalized, or all boys are privileged. So, in order to give it a fuller picture, we need to employ a kind of intersectional lens. Otherwise, like, we'll have a partial understanding.
I'm sorry. I just I think we're running a bit late on the time, and I know I've seen your discussion questions, and I know they're really interesting. So I just kind of want to make sure we have enough time for everyone to discuss them. So would it be possible, like, maybe in a minute or two? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, I'll finish in a minute. Okay. So there are other issues of the ethnicity and nationalist language ideologies that I'll show you one example from here, that if you go outside, there is a perception that if somebody speaks Bhojpuri, which is a minoritized local language, that means they are not from educated family. So, like, there's a case of language shaming, that although you are living in your own community and going to school, you are not allowed to use your own mother tongue. I have also a case, so I'm running out of time, but the unequal translanguaging, that all those children are using, or the teacher, in fact, is mixing English and Nepali, but not using the student's mother tongue. And he's saying that mother tongue is not allowed because this is not a good language. If you want to become successful, you need to use English or Nepali. So although translanguaging is there, but it's unequal. Finally, I think EMI is not merely a policy or paradigm, or program, it's a discourse. And discourse means a combination of multiple discourses of hopes, desires, elitism, and inequalities. There's a critical need for disrupting this discourse through our research, practice, and advocacy, rather than appropriating EMI in any ways. So to fully capture the discourse of EMI and intersectional lens is important. Social justice approach contributing to human well-being. So we need to think about the human well-being more than learning English or learning content. So again, back to Ernesto Macaro, that it's the job of researchers to identify the issues surrounding its precarious journey. So our job is far more than just identifying the issues of EMI. We are going to be advocate for our students. We have lots of things to do. So I'll finish this talk with the argument that any education system that claims transformation for minoritized students should build their curriculum and instruction on the local realities and social justice concerns in terms of language, identity, and culture, but not necessarily on the global market dispositions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pramod. I won't do too much of a wrap-off. Well, I definitely won't do a wrap-off or a wrap-up. If I start talking about capital and Bordeaux and things, Heath can tell you later how much of a rant I'll go on, and we'll never make it to discussion. So what we're going to do, if anyone missed it last time, we're going to move into breakout rooms. And so when you're in your breakout room, I'm going to share some links. Actually, I'll do it now. I'll share links to Google Documents. Now, some people were asking me last time, how do you know what room you're in? It's just in the little bar at the top of the screen. You should be able to see what breakout room you're in. So please just find the correct room in there, and you'll find some discussion questions. And if one person from each group can volunteer to kind of write a little bit about what you're talking about, it means the speakers and also Nicola, who's going to be kind of doing the wrap up right at the end, can interact with those and can take a look at those. So I'll post that now, and you'll be able to see that when you're in the breakout rooms as well. And I'm going to send everyone off to the breakout rooms now.